is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. Hope you're having a wonderful morning and enjoying your cup of joe in the mo from your Juxtaposition 1 handsome coffee mug. Do check the links below on how to get one of these handsome mugs. All right. Today's video will be entitled Predictability and Futility of Life. Predictability and Futility of Life. This will be an ongoing video series that I will do every month or so. I'll do a predictability and futility video. All right, this is where we address the concept of, as Erin Valente told us back on October 7th, 2019, her last words spoken to her mother in Rochester, New York, calling from City of San Jose in the Almaden district. She told her mother, "It's all a game. It's a thought experiment. We're in the Matrix." Well, we've come to learn, I guess she meant metaverse. She meant the consolidation of her client, Control Laboratories in Manhattan, New York, with Facebook, and the pseudo Charlie Manson leader, Mark Zuckerberg. They came together, and after 2019, the transaction for about $1 billion was celebrated as Meta. Everything became Meta. No more Facebook, no more Control Labs, which Control Labs, if you didn't know, was computer to brain interface using mobile devices. Now, I say mobile devices, I mean you. I mean like the pilots in these planes, and you, the listener, you, the viewer. You're a mobile device too. You don't have to have a mobile phone to be a mobile device. All you need is a pulsing heart and an activated brain with brain waves, and you're tethered to the cloud 24/7. Whether you're vaccinated for COVID or whether you're vaccinated for the flu shot, makes no difference. You're tethered to the cloud 24/7, and you appear on a radar screen for Raytheon missile guidance systems with a 24-year-old keyboard commando playing around with your thoughts in your head, right? So we asked the big question here: what would life be without the media? What if the media, the mass communication systems, what if they didn't exist? What if there was no cable television? What if there was no radio? What if there was no social media? What if there was no Meta? What if there was no Facebook? What if there was no Twitter or X? What if? What if the only communications you could do would be your neighbors in your strategic hamlet, your local village wise people, your wise people of your city council, right? Your hamlet, your city council of your hamlet. What if those were the only people whose communications you could hear or project your thoughts to? Local ranching, local farming, local water systems, local waste disposal services. Well, I think we all know we live in a Truman Show. That's what Erin Valente meant when she said it's all a game, it's a thought experiment, we're in the Matrix. She meant you live in a Truman Show. It means you live in Disneyland or Disney World. There's a whole underground complex, subterranean Disneyland, subterranean Disney World. There's another world down there. That's where the food deliveries go. They have a Disney jail. They have a Disney detention facility at all Disneyland parks. They have Disney jails underneath. You don't see them. They're hidden underneath your feet. At Disneyland in Anaheim, Orange County, the Disney jail is located underneath the Dumbo exhibit. In case you didn't know, the Dumbo exhibit, that's the flying elephant ride. It's to the west of the Matterhorn. Remember, the Matterhorn has a roller coaster ride that reveals the inside of the Matterhorn when you get on that ride. The Matterhorn's in Switzerland, right? And the Matterhorn is in the north part of Main Street, USA. And Main Street, USA represents the Hunger Game colony known as the United States. which is symbolized with its 13-stripe colonial Masonic Unity of Masons flag. The United States flag represents one world order, Geneva global governance. That's what you pledge your allegiance to. You pledge it to Geneva, Switzerland. That's the point of unity, the unity of Masons. The unity amongst Masons is expressed in a Masonic 13-stripe flag. 13 means unity, universal belief, COVID belief. It means one world governance. It means we all universally agree with the ministry of poppycock. We all agree with the ministry of balderdash. We all believe in a higher authority. Okay, we all believe in the standard truth as presented by the ministry of truth. The ministry of truth is, of course, ministry of mendacity. It's lies. That's what you do in a Truman Show. In the colonial clown show of the United States, we have Harvard University clown Steve Bannon, who works closely with Fordham University clown Donald Trumpster, or he did, to get a phony fake who cares election where we flood the zone. You flood the zone if you know you have all this media coverage. So you flood it with dozens of different unrelated stories to set about chaos amongst the journalist reporters, the pseudo journalists, because there's not a job for a journalist in a matrix of mendacity. If all our messaging comes from the ministry of mendacity, there's absolutely no reason for any truth-telling gumshoe detective reporters who call themselves or fancy themselves as journalists. Journalists don't exist. There's no paid positions for journalists. Now, can you be a citizen journalist? Can you go check out crime scenes on your own? Go check it out yourself? Of course you can do that. But of course it's impractical because no one will pay you. You don't get to be on a salary with benefits to be a citizen detective or a citizen journalist. You're really on your own. But that's the only hope we have for truth, is to have people going outside of their shelter in place prison cell and go out and about the community, kick the tires, look under the rocks, get their fingernails dirty to discover the truth and separate what is forgery from what is authentic, to separate a copy from what is the real deal, right? The real deal. That's the metaverse versus the physical reality, the physical truth, right? Because that's what you're dealing with today. You're dealing with a simulation. You're dealing with a controlled amusement park environment that's like the World's Fair, but it's within a secured perimeter. That's what Disneyland is known for, having a secured perimeter to not let people sneak through the fence, nor let them escape except through the exit gates that are provided for them. Now, there have been philosophers and authors, book authors, who've come before, who went to fancy schools like the University of Paris or the University of Yale University in Connecticut. And one that I'll post today that I'll refer to a little bit is Jean Baudrillard. And he studied anthropology and looked into different aspects of anthropology, which, of course, my favorite field, social science, the study of humans and how human beings adopt cultural norms and social behaviors and gather together as allies or separate themselves as foes or enemies. It all comes under the concept of anthropology, social science, economics, ethics. And Jean Baudrillard has surmised that we've moved with neo-modernism or modernism movement to postmodernism, and it's just gone from losing history. We're losing our physical history, which we lost 2,000 years ago, and everything is turned over to someone who's presenting a version of reality. So Jean Baudrillard is referring to something he calls hyper reality. Hyperreality is reality that's based on storytellers who came before. Essentially, he's referring to a simulation. He calls it a simulacra, which is a copy that depicts things without any original context. That originals are no longer existing in our lexicon of terms or our domain. We don't have any authentic originals in our domain. Jean Baudrillard insists that the simulation is true because it conceals the absence of reality. So it becomes true. The illusion becomes reality. The illusion, which is a myth, which is a embellished story of days gone by. That's what you have. It's a simulation. Behind me, we have the Blue Angels. Now, these 4 airplanes are to assert patriotism into the minds of pea-brained people who are fully augmented, people who think they have independence and sovereignty, but do not. You live in an insolvent Hunger game. You have no sovereignty whatsoever. This is to make the illusion into reality that this is military force and that you're an independent nation, that there's a sense of nationalism. That's the point of the Blue Angels, is to simulate sovereignty and nationalism and pride and patriotism, none of which exist in real life. They are all a psychological operation that exists only in a pea-sized brain that can't comprehend that Switzerland runs our country, because Switzerland controls our money system, which puts airplane fuel into these 4 jets. I can assure you the United States Treasury cannot afford to pay the pilots a salary, perform the maintenance on these high-performance F-18 Hornets, not to mention put gasoline in them. It can't be done other than under NATO budgetary authority, which is Switzerland, Swiss Bank Authority. All right. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Jean Baudrillard, about some of his belief systems here. He talked about hyperreality, which is a state in which distinction between the real and a simulation collapses. And essentially, the simulation is the only view that you get. What we experience as, quote, real is actually shaped entirely by models, codes, and imagery. All right. Then he talks about the process of simulation, which is the shift from a territory of reality, which was represented by a map, a representation, to a map that preceded the territory, models generated through reality rather than reflecting the reality. In other words, a new version of reality. It's like New Age Kabbalah, right? New Age Hui. That's what New Age Kabbalah is. You put lipstick on a pig and you present it as an Arabian racehorse. It's still a pig, but now it has $50 worth of mascara and $100 of lipstick on its lips. And so the illusion can become believable, despite the fact it's just a farm pig that's about $75. There are stages of this simulation: first order, second order, third, fourth, to where I think we are today in 2026. I think we're pretty far into the matrix, into the rabbit hole. Anyone who believes that Charlie Manson had any involvement whatsoever in the murder of Sharon Tate is delusional. They're completely lost in space. There isn't even a Charlie Manson as a person. There's a no-name Maddox. There's no Charlie Manson. If you go to a prison, a state prison or a federal prison or a jail, and you want to interview someone there, let's say it's a loved one or a cousin, you'll never get a straight answer out of them. You can't. Everything is surveilled in a jail or a prison. And nothing is televised on CBS or 60 Minutes or Geraldo Rivera's television shows or Diane Sawyer or Mike Wallace that isn't edited and produced. And all the people who are interviewed, like all the Charlie Manson interviews over the years, they're all scripted and faked and paid for. The warden gets money, the prison gets money, and Charlie Manson gets flat screen TVs for all of his cell block neighbors. They all get flat screen TVs every time or they get something every time he does an interview. He was the highest paid interviewee in the California state prison system. But those are fake, all right? The swastika on his forehead, that's a theatrical device. Charlie Manson is not going to tell the truth. The Son of Sam killer is never going to tell you the truth because you can't. And if you've never been in jail, you have no idea what you're talking about. And your personality doesn't matter. You'll never get a straight answer of anyone who is in police custody or in prison under the Bureau of Prison and Authority. It will be used against you. You'll be punished if you deviate from the script that you're given. If you are allowed to collect money to go on television or a radio interview, you will have that entire script approved in advance. And any deviation from it will never be published. It will never be seen by the public. It's a controlled simulation, right? Why it matters. Baudrillard's work is central into understanding how the media, a consumerized culture, and technology have reshaped human perception in ways that make artificial feel more authentic than real. We live in an authentic world. Unless you get out of your home and you look up at the sky and see the pollution, hear the airplanes, see the helicopters flying over your township, stirring up and scintillating all of the what's called stratospheric aerosol injections going on above your hamlet, which every hamlet has this problem. Even in remote places like Joshua Tree National Park or Glacier National Park or Yosemite National Park, they're dumping aluminum chalk over those parks as part of this smart dust global human augmentation program to pollute our water, our soil, and human augmentation. These ideas have been influenced by media studies, cultural criticisms, critiques of political discourse, showing how hyperreality can obscure truth and erode your critical thought. You know, at this channel, at Juxtaposition, we believe in the tenets of thinking and asserting your critical thinking skills and deductive reasoning. We feel that that is the best example of humanism. To be alive is to think critically and independently, and don't go with the crowd. Don't be a lemming. Don't go off the cliff with the rest of the herd. Don't get vaccinated. Don't get vaccinated for COVID or bird flu or monkeypox. Don't listen to a medical doctor. Challenge them. They are all bribed on a schedule. They have a schedule of what is reimbursed. They are bribed to tell you what their higher authority wants them to tell you. It has nothing to do with their personal opinion. It has to do with the facts of life. They will have a job if they lie to you, and they will lose their license if they tell the truth or give their personal opinions. Nobody cares. The authorities don't care what the truth is. They are living your life in a simulation. Let me then juxtapose to the next philosopher, this one from Yale University. Jean Baudrillard was in a University of Paris, France. Now we move to Frederick Jameson. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1934, and he echoes many of the same concepts promulgated by the man who's 36 years younger, Jean Baudrillard. And Jean Baudrillard was born in 1929, whereas Frederick was 1934. So he's 5 years younger. Frederick Jameson's 5 years younger. Now, he went to Yale for his PhD. He didn't believe in postmodernism so much. Rather, he did analyze postmodernism as a cultural concept of what's called late stage capitalism. Frederick Jameson wrote a book in 1999 published that was called Postmodernism, or the Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. Now, Don't forget, both of these gentlemen are augmented in that they both came from these fancy universities, which means they're fairly naive about the ways of the world. And they like to talk about things like socialism and Marxism and communism, none of which exist in real life. There's no such thing as communism or Marxism in real life. There is only fascism. There is only one belief system, and it's Swiss bank authority under fascism. You can also refer to it as techno-enslavement, totalitarianism, colonialism, or imperialism. They're all synonyms for fascism, but it's fascism. That's the one system that exists. For Frederick Jameson, postmodernism emerged alongside of the rise of the electronic and nuclear technologies after World War II, which replaced modernism with what he called a cultural dominant of his new economic stage. He identifies the features of what he calls cultural dominant as depthlessness, which is a waning effect of the flattening out of cultural depths. Pastiche, which is the blending and recycling of styles and imagery. That's pastiche. Then he calls the crisis of historicality. This is the loss of clear historical narratives and continuity of history taught to children in school. Then he has the simulacra, which of course has to do with the simulation, the representations of stories that no longer refer to the real world and except to other simulations made by other authors of simulations. Frederick Jameson saw these four traits as systematic, not accidental, and as an expression of how late capitalism organizes production and consumption around imagery and symbolism and information rather than by tangible physical goods. He respected some postmodernist literary culture theories, such as deconstruction, for their abilities to expose the artificiality of reality represented. He criticized them, though, for offering and often surrendering and celebrating the very market-driven system that they praised and analyzed. In short, Frederick Jameson's beliefs were not of postmodernism as a thing, but is a historically and structurally determined outcome of capitalism's most advanced phases. Look, I'll just dumb it down for you so that, we don't have to sit here and postulate what did he mean, what did he mean. There's only one authority. It's called Swiss Bank Authority. It's existed for going on 2,000 years. It operated under the concept of cornering the market of merchant exchange to be able to provide banking and credit services to vendors of tangible physical goods and services, but mostly goods, like farm products, like masonry products to build bridges and buildings and houses. It was to corner the market of banking. Merchant exchange is banking, and to get a monopoly on it. And they recruited priests and Catholics and believers of Christianity to go on crusades under the Red Cross, flying the Red Cross, manifested as Spanish conquistadors who conquered South America, Central America, and most of California under the Red Cross. And also pirates like Sir Francis Drake, who planted a Red Cross flag on the beaches of Point Reyes and claimed it for England, which is completely owned by Switzerland. All right, so you see the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Italians, the French, the Dutch, the English, they were all colonies themselves of Switzerland. Then when they go on to spread colonialism throughout the world, which is a form of imperialism, they're operating as agents for Switzerland. Swiss Bank Authority. Who discovered gold in California? Well, James Marshall, who was an employee of Johann Sutter, who's a Swiss national, at his lumber mill on the bank of the Coloma town on the American River in New Helvetia, in an area of land, 49,000 acres, referred to as New Helvetia, New Switzerland. So the Swiss discovered gold in California, not the Union Army, okay, not the Mexican Army, not the Spanish, not the English, the Swiss. And then that thus rang the dinner bell to migrate 1 million people to California in the next couple of years, which was a tremendous immigration program, very successful. Most of those people who migrated to California did not discover gold. So it was kind of a hoodwink, don't you think? They were hoodwinked, but they were didn't have much of an option because their life wasn't good wherever they came from. So they bought into the hopium, Anyway, wanted you to know that the world would be very, very different without the media involved, because then you'd get rid of all the fake friends in your life. The Truman Show, it turns out his own wife was cast as an actress, and that his best friend was cast as an actor, that he didn't have any real friends or a real job. He was just an actor in a production studio that was known as I don't know what the town was called, but the true man, the only true man, the only true authentic person in the show was the Truman character, and but everything else was fake. It was all a game. It's a thought experiment. He was in the Matrix. He's in the metaverse. It was all created by the director and the producer of the Truman Show, which did not consult with Mr. Truman as to his daily activities. All right. Nodes on the network, circular loops. This is how social media works. That's how cable media works. They'll get a story and then they'll repeat it 100,000 times. And they'll use satellite providers, like content creators at YouTube or at Twitter or TikTok, to add their opinion to a story that's already been written. That's fake. It's a fake story. Then you'll get 13,000 slightly different variations of a lie. That's what I call a matrix of mendacity on steroids. That's what I call it. Today we have Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, BitChute, Facebook, which is now called Meta, TikTok, YouTube, which is a censorship platform. Then we have Odyssey, Substack, Patreon, right? Those are all hyper reality channels where you might get a smidgen of authenticity on those channels, but not for long. No, nothing authentic lasts long at YouTube. It'll either be deleted or shadow banned into oblivion. It's hard to tell what is true versus false. It's hard to know what is a forgery and what is authentic on the Mona Lisa, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's COVID or whether it's the coronavirus or Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, or whether it's 9/11 and buildings collapsing allegedly by airplanes hitting them. Okay. Whether it's Charlie Manson, nobody knew who Charlie Manson was for 4 months after the murders of Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, and Lena LaBianca. And not a single reporter ever looked into Lena LaBianca or Abigail Folger. And if they had, they would have found out what the hell was going on there. Because normally, Abigail and Lena wouldn't be together in the same metaverse, but they were, because Abigail was working with Robert Kennedy and then the Tom Bradley mayoral campaign, first black mayor of LA. So she's in the political operations of Los Angeles, and Leno is in the money laundering, drug running, and weapons dealing of Los Angeles County, out of Venice Beach and throughout the Port Authority of Los Angeles, which is the Los Angeles Port and Long Beach Port, San Pedro. That's the Leno LaBianca area. It's where he was trained as a United States Army military policeman, was in San Pedro. And this is where Timothy Leary and Charlie Manson were imprisoned there at Terminal Island. This is where Leno was trained. It's also where Douglas MacArthur's father has a military fort there named after MacArthur, not Doug, his father. All right. So if you did believe in looking into the murders of Lena LaBianca, you'd have no shortages of suspects. Harold True, Harry Yost, right? You know these names, right? Ernie Blotzel, Alan Swerdloff. You've heard that name. Rodney Davis, Frank Struthers Sr., Frank Struthers Jr., Robert Greene, Richard Hoffman, Paul Blyman. How about the Peters? Peter Smaldino, Peter DeSantis, right? Roy Norwood. Those three actually would do better financially if Leno were to die. Roy Norwood was the chief financial officer controller of the money laundering operation known as Gateway Markets. So he'd probably give himself a big raise, double his salary. Peter DeSantis, he's the brother-in-law of Leno and the husband of his eldest sister. He could have given himself a big fat pay raise. He was already managing director of the Knights of Columbus, Western region. Peter Smaldino, he would have been helpful in the money laundering. And but instead they came up with Leslie Van Houten, who's from Altadena and is a homecoming queen for Sierra Madre High School. I mean, that's pretty long reach, don't you think? That she did it, that she killed Rosemary LaBianca. That's the only murder she was charged with, was Rosemary. And she was not present for the murders of Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger. But you know what? No, but none of the people that mentioned were, and none of the people who actually did the murders are not mentioned ever, not ever. And you got people like Oliver Silverstein Stone, Lawrence Schiller, Dominic Nunn, Joan Didion, Frank Zappa, Neil Young, Gene Simmons, you know, Mike Love of the Beach Boys, big pathological liar Mike Love, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and they're all covering up the Manson murders by concealing the fact that it was a military hit. All right. So Timothy Leary, Melvin Belli, F. Lee Bailey, Vincent Bugliosi, Johnny Cochran, Leslie Abramson, they're all military fake maritime lawyers who are all doing their bit to follow orders and do what they say. And all the trials that those people are associated with are decided in private in a conference room or in a parking lot, but they're not decided in a courtroom. Then we have all the fake authors that over our generation: Jack London, Mark Twain, John Steinbeck, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Gertrude Stein, Ayn Rand, Henry Miller. They're all military sponsored authors who were sent all around the world, out to West Hollywood, to New York, to Havana, Cuba, all over the world. Just like Jane Fonda was sent to Hanoi, Vietnam in the 1970s during the Vietnam War. How the heck do you have a 32-year-old actress just floats right in there? And the Marines can't get into Hanoi, but Jane Fonda can with a film crew. That's what you call simulation, right? It's a metaverse. It's a matrix of mendacity. That's the world in which we live. So that's my message for today. This is why we talk about the idea of predictability and futility of our lives. Everything is based on gaslighting us to push a button emotionally, to create anxiety or the state of stress, to create anger where there should be no anger, fear, and your personal pride to insult you, to get a reaction from you. If you really want to be independent in this world, you need to become a paid member of my show, my channel, because it's an educational channel. And I'm going to teach you the discipline, the self-discipline. If you can't control your own emotions, then you have no chance in this world. They're spending trillions of dollars to augment humans and to gaslight them. There's a whole army division of media people who lie to you 24/7. So you can't take people like Donald Trump seriously. You can't take Victor Davis Hanson, or Andrew Napolitano seriously, or unfunny comedians like Michael LeBron, Lionel, or Whitney Webb, or Glenn Greenwald, or Alex Jones, or Gene Simmons, or Joe Rogan serious. They're not. They're clowns. They're complete clowns. Dr. Drew, Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, they lie to you 24/7. They lie like a rug. Get over it. Stop listening to them. Stu Rapper Peters with the Screen Actors Guild, Jesse the Steroid Body Ventura, Arnold Screw Your Freedom Steroid Ventura. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the steroid fruitcake from Austria. Ignore him, tune him out. Just like you should tune out Mel Gibson, Dick Van Dyke, okay, Lady Gaga, Celine Dion, uh, who we got here? Taylor Swift, the NFL football, all the presenters of NFL football, all the steroid doping apologists in sports, all the people who cover up all the illegal referee calls, the blind referees, the blind umpires, the fixed games. They lie about the gambling. They lie about the odds. They lie about the doping, the rampant doping. And this is all part of the Hollywood star-making system to create influencers where none should exist. It's called a Svengali trance of Hollywood. It's the magic castle. It's Magic Kingdom is what Disney calls it, right? Disneyland is about making the illusion in the fairy tale real, when it's not. It's a lie. You need to be self-aware. You need to guard your own peace and tranquility. You need to guard your own personal sovereignty, which is becoming more and more difficult to do. You need to take control of yourself first, okay? You need to set the tone and be hesitant and thoughtful before you decide. Don't use your emotion of anger, fear, and pride to make you perform a knee-jerk reaction. That's not how you win a bicycle race. That's not how you win a motorcycle race. That's not how you succeed in the battle for your life. You have to be very, very thoughtful and relaxed, and do not panic. You want to think well. You can feel the pressure, just don't let it affect you. Don't let the pressure crack you. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to crack you psychologically, physically, and emotionally. And of course, the counter is to remain calm, become a paid member of the Juxtaposition channel, and we'll see. Make it a fair fight, right? Make it a fair fight. They're spending trillions of dollars to defeat us. Let's see if we can outmaneuver them, right? Because they're the controllers in Geneva Global Governance. They're relying on the predictability of our behavior and the futility and apathy of our lives. That's what they're hanging their hats on. So obviously, the Juxtaposition channel wants you to be unpredictable, calm as a cucumber, very thoughtful, very intuitive, and with good judgment. And we want you to practice solving puzzles. That's why we like the Columbo murder mystery series. We like Nancy Drew and Joe and Frank Hardy. And we like, Sherlock Holmes murder mysteries because it makes our brain think. And I think that's the key to not having senile dementia, which children have senile dementia today. Children have senile dementia. It's not age-based. Senile dementia is the loss of your tenets of thinking. It's your inability to think critically, clearly, and act rationally. And that is what the smart dust is all about. That's what the pollution is all about, in combination with the light, energy, LED, light-emitting diodes, and the sunlight being weaponized against us, weather warfare, electronic magnetic resonance, and ultrasonic sound waves. That's what they're doing. They're modifying our DNA, our cellular structure, and they're applying huge amounts of radiation stress upon people, trying to crack us, trying to get us to focus on entertainment, and that's pacification and control, and the disablement of your tenets of thinking, to disable your ability to fight back and to plan and to plot in secret against the enemy. Anyway, that's my message for today, is that you don't have to be defeated. You can rise up, and I want you to do that. And do get yourself a Juxtaposition coffee mug, and you can put an adult beverage in here if that makes you feel better. I got no problem putting Scotch whiskey or Ouzo or grappa in this cup. Thanks for listening, and do like and share my videos because I am heavily shadow banned. All right. Let's see if I have a cavalcade of photographs to show you today. This is where I'm tape recording today's show. This is Frederick Jameson, which we talked about earlier, right? And this is Jean Baudrillard, right here from Paris, France. This is Pope Benedict, I believe, before Pope Leo. And they're his Swiss Guard babysitters, all right. This is, of course, Spanish explorer, officer in the Spanish Army. This is Juan Bautista de Anza, and he established what is referred to as the Southern Immigrant Trail. He didn't do that on purpose. That idea was stolen from him. This is the world in which we live. This is human augmentation. That's why they do this. It's to go to a zero trust architecture. This is the Bohemian Club, made famous by Alex Jones and his big bald-faced lie about breaking into the Bohemian Grove back on July 15th, the year 2000. That is not a true story. That's not a true story. This is the flock cameras and 24 surveillance that we're under, zero trust. And this is the typical skies here in Napa County, Sonoma County, Solano County, Marin County, where I live, where I reside, near Skaggs Island. I live 13 miles from Skaggs Island, and this is what my skies look like today. Hope you love them. It's all part of the zero trust system. More annoying is the noise that all the airplanes make. And of course, most annoying of all is how not a single person in my town hears the noise, and they don't understand Juan Bautista de Anza's mission to conquer California for Switzerland, for Spain, aka Switzerland. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.